Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We're here at London Eye.
So we've gone from Tilgate Park in Crawley, with wonderful friends, to being on our own again.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. With Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam.
So it's Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 8. The appearance of Lord Varaha.
Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 8. O worshipful one, please give us your direction for the execution of duty within our working capacity, so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Purport. Brahma is the direct recipient of Vedic knowledge from the personality of Godhead, and anyone discharging his entrusted duties in disciplic succession from Brahma is sure to gain fame in this life and salvation in the next. The disciplic succession from Brahma is called the Brahma Sampradaya, and it descends as follows: Brahma, Narada, Vyas, Madhav Muni, Madhva Muni, Purna Prajna, Padmanabh, Nirihari, Madhava, Ashokvya, Jayateta, Jnanasindhu, Dayanidhi, Vidyanidhi, Rajendra, Jayadharma, Purushottam, Brahmanya Tirtha, Vyasa Tirtha, Lakshmipati, Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarup Damodar, and Sri Rupa Goswami and others. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishna Das Goswami, Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This line of disciplic succession from Brahma is spiritual, whereas the genealogical succession from Manu is material. But both are on the progressive march towards the same goal of Krishna consciousness.
Wow, a lot of powerful points in there.
Interesting, the last paragraph, because we're hearing so far that Brahma is creating progeny to go forth and populate. So then Prabhupada makes a point that line for Manu is material, but at the same time he's making the point that there's some Sampradaya coming down from Brahma. It's the same thing, but it's spiritual. So two lines coming down. He's got, the go forth and create.
It's the seminal line, I guess.
The seminal and the spiritual. But he says it's both for the same point, which is the goal is Krishna consciousness, either way.
Yes.
But it's interesting because we've read all this so far about Lord Brahma, how he appeared and everything to do with him, and then it's nice to read that and we come down from, because it's refreshing, not that we don't know about Brahma and this, as it were, but so it's refreshing in that he's saying, we realize, gosh, we're at the end of that, we're currently at the end, as it were.
Well, our spiritual master.
Well, yeah, so then we're after him. I'm not saying we're after him, that we're going to be spiritual master, at the end of this great line. That's my point.
Yeah.
Of this great personality.
It's nice that all the kind of names are also given. Often, like in the Bhagavad Gita, it just kind of skips from Madhva. It goes from Vyas to Madhva, and then it kind of skips down. But here you have all the names, and you can see it's a clear lineage, a clear parampara, and it is powerful. Also, I was thinking that it's an important point because, as we were discussing a little bit yesterday, that it's not that this parampara system is meant to stop, as Srila Prabhupada it's clear that the parampara is meant to continue, and so those who profess some philosophy that it's meant to stop at Srila Prabhupada are just in such illusion, I have to say, I don't know if it's with due respect, but it's like, it's just such a bogus, thought, and that Srila Prabhupada would be so, in one sense you could say, despite the fact that he is obviously the Senapati Bhakta, sent from Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya was God, and the disciplic succession didn't stop with him. So why would it stop with the commander? It's meant to continue, and then later someone else will come if it falls into disarray and pick things up, and just like with Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he picked things up, and so we shouldn't think that somehow we can concoct some philosophy to stop the parampara, even with a great personality. Madhvacharya is kind of the head of our line, not the head, Brahma is the head, but Madhvacharya is our kind of acharya in our lineage, and it didn't stop with him. So it's, it will continue, and we should all do our best, as this says at the beginning. Anyone discharging his entrusted duties in disciplic succession from Brahma is sure to gain fame in this life and salvation in the next. Not that we're after fame, but we should be eager to discharge our duty in accordance with Lord Brahma's instructions, and try to continue the fame of Lord Brahma's line, not our personal fame, but to make sure that people are aware of what is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and in that way, Anyway, there's a bit of a mad rambling. Is that too much? It's always too much. So, anyway, we'll continue. Text 9. Lord Brahma said, "My dear son, O Lord of the world, I am very pleased with you, and I desire all blessings for both you and your wife. You have without reservation surrendered yourself unto me with your heart for my instructions."
It was really quiet when we came in. All of a sudden, it's like live.
Because it's almost 9 o'clock in the morning, and everything starts to happen. So we should have got here a little bit earlier, but anyway. So, Lord Brahma is saying to Swayam Bhuva, I give you all blessings. I'm so pleased with you, and you have without reservation surrendered yourself unto me with your heart for my instructions. So he's just pleased that they both are ready to do whatever Lord Brahma is asking. Purport. The relationship between the father and the son is always sublime. The father is naturally disposed with goodwill towards the son, and he is always ready to help the son in his progress in life. But in spite of the father's goodwill, the son is sometimes misguided because of his misuse of personal independence. Every living entity, however small or big he may be, has the choice of independence. If the son is unreservedly willing to be guided by the father is 10 times more eager to instruct and guide him by all means. The father and son relationship, as exhibited here in the dealings of Brahma and Manu, is excellent. Both the father and the son are well qualified, and their example should be followed by all humankind. Manu, the son, unreservedly asked the father, Brahma, to instruct him, and the father, who was full of Vedic wisdom, was very glad to instruct. The example of the father of mankind may be rigidly followed by mankind, and that will advance the cause of the relationship of fathers and sons. Well, there you go. So basically you need good fathers to support and encourage their sons, and you need the sons to be willing to listen to and adhere to the order of the father. In the modern age, that's like almost non-existent. In fact, it may be just the opposite, that the sons are inclined to disobey the father and rebel. There's this heavy, rebellious mentality.
Yeah.
that we have in Kali Yuga.
Very sad. Very sad. Text 10. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Purport. When the 4 previous sons of Brahma, the sages Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara,
Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara.
thank you for repeating that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I got it also.
Right? When they refused to obey their father, Brahma was mortified and his anger was manifested in the shape of Rudra. That incident was not forgotten by Brahma, and therefore the obedience of Manu Swayambhuva was very encouraging. From the material point of view, the 4 sages' disobedience to the order of their father was certainly abominable, but because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, they were free from the reaction of disobedience. Those who disobey their fathers on material grounds, however, are surely subjected to disciplinary reaction for such disobedience. Manu's obedience to his father on material grounds was certainly free from envy, and in the material world it is imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu.
Interesting. So what's being said here? What is the essence of the point?
Manu was free from envy.
Okay, Manu is free from envy.
And thus there's a certain level of humility or open-mindedness, you know? You're not puffed up. You're okay to hear. Because you know you don't know it all.
Yeah, that's a powerful point. That was in there, but I hadn't thought of that as the main one. But yeah, if we're free from envy, we're able to hear, and if we're able to hear, then we're able to follow. But if we're proud, then we block out things thinking we know what's going on, and we don't really follow. That's a powerful point. I guess I was thinking more that there are these, would seem like contradictory points. One is which the 4 Kumaras, they disagree with their father, which on the material platform, Prabhupada says, is abominable. But because they did it for a higher purpose of service to Krishna, then there was no reaction. But if someone disobeys their father on material grounds, there will be a reaction. At the same time, it seems to imply that Manu's obedience to his father was on material grounds. It was simply because his father was his father and he was instructing him. So then he did it. And in that way, it was free from envy. And in the material world, it's imperative. So it's kind of an interesting conundrum a little bit, because you might think that, well, the right thing to do is follow the spiritual path, and that may mean disrespect the father or disregard his instructions. But for most of us who are just simply ordinary people, we're meant to follow the suit of, acting correctly in accordance with custom and etiquette in that way, so we would follow the instruction of the father and just kind of do what he says. Now, of course, Lord Brahma is a special kind of father. And, not all fathers in one sense in the material world are necessarily like, if Prahlad had followed his father was Hiranyakashipu. Look what happened to Dhruva Maharaj. He kind of went out and upset against his father, also left the palace. Any other examples you can think of? Priyavrata. This is good. We'll come to this later. King Priyavrata. His father, who was Swayambhuva Manu actually, asked him to create progeny, but he left the kingdom and kind of went away to be an ascetic and left the kingdom in charge of Uttanapad. And then later, after Uttanapad had passed and all his relatives were gone, then Swayambhuva said, okay, now you have to do it. And he said, no, Father, I'm an ascetic. And Narada Muni agreed with Priyavrata and said, no, you don't have to do it. And then Lord Brahma had to come, and then it's interesting, that'll come up later. Because he said, no, you should listen to your father. That's the need of the hour, and why are you so envious of Krishna? He gives some really interesting philosophy. We'll discuss that much more later. But yeah, so there's lots of examples, I guess. So we have to have a qualified father also. So it's not just that we blindly follow our father who may tell us to do even maybe abominable things. But still, I guess if we do that without envy, then it's still, there's no reaction for it. Well, maybe, is it? That's an interesting question. Am I rambling too much again? Should we read one more?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Is it? Okay. So text 11, this will be the last one for today. Since you are my very dear, very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by performances of yajna. Purport. It's quite a long purport. The purpose of the material creation by Brahma is clearly described herein. Every human being should beget nice children in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. Okay? In the Vishnu Purana 389, it is stated, Varnashram acharavata purushena parapumam vishnur aradyate panta nanyat tattva shakaranam. One can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, by proper discharge of the principles of Varna and Ashram. There is no alternative to pacifying the Lord by execution of the principles of the Varnashram system. Interesting. That's from Vishnu Purana. Okay.
Vishnu worship is the ultimate aim of human life. Those who take the license of married life for sense enjoyment must also take the responsibility to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And the first stepping stone is the Varnashram Dham system. Varnashram Dham is the systematic institution for advancing in worship of Vishnu. However, if one directly engages in the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it may not be necessary to undergo the disciplinary system of Varnashram Dham. The other sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, directly engaged in devotional service, and thus they had no need to execute the principles of Varnashram Dham.
So the Varna, go ahead, any thoughts?
No, I wasn't going to say anything, so please continue.
The Varnashram system in general is considered a material system. But it's material, but it's meant for the gradual development of a person so that they can come to the platform of engagement in devotional service. But if someone like the four Kumaras in that instance, that of course it's describing that they took to devotional service, that's also because later we understand that they were more Brahmavadis, not Mayavadis, but Brahmavadis, rather than devotees. But their inclination was to not get married and to dedicate themselves to austerity and penance and a life dedicated to the service of God, even if they did initially only understand them in an impersonal way. But, so Varnashram is meant to bring us to the platform of devotional service, and if we're already doing that, then we don't have to follow Varnashram. Although Yadyadacharya Shreshtas, as Bhagavad Gita says, that whatever a great man does, common men follow. So if someone is engaged in devotional service directly to the Lord, then in one sense they're considered the most famous and they're considered great people. And they should also try to set the example. Thus Srila Prabhupada said that only 50% of his work was done and the other 50% was to establish Varnashram. So that's something that still remains for us to work on. But because so many, because most all, if not all, of the devotees within ISKCON following Srila Prabhupada is simply performing devotional service directly to the Lord, then in one sense you may think, why do we need to do that? So that's a big question, a big topic. Any thoughts?
No, not really. Just that Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram Dham. He said that wasn't done. But on the other hand, it says here that if you're engaged directly in devotional service, you don't need to execute Varnashram Dham. So it seems a contradiction.
Yeah. But all contradictions are... I mean, Prabhupada's main point for establishing Varnashram is that I believe, if I've understood correctly, that he could see that not everyone was able to really perform pure devotional service on the highest levels, and there was still material needs and interests and concerns. So in order to solve that, plus, as I understood, for preaching purposes and to help to engage many, many people on the path of moving towards devotional service. So it's kind of like the funnel principle in marketing, where you have this narrow bit at the bottom of the funnel, which is where all the kind of serious practitioners are. But then as you move up the funnel, more people kind of get involved, the less restrictive and the more open it becomes. So if you have a system that kind of helps people to feel like they're engaged and involved in something, but they don't have to be super strict in one sense, then it means more people come, and in that way more people also will slowly filter down. Anyway, that's one thought. But it's a huge topic.
Yeah.
And we're going to finish now, I think.
Yes, we are.
So, please everyone read the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. Get absorbed in hearing and chanting. It is the real eye of London. It is the eye through which we can see things properly. Not this London eye, which is just a big wheel in the middle of London. Of course, we come here from a material perspective to attract people. Oh, look where they are today. But really what we want you to do is hear from the real eye being Krishna, the supreme eye. If you want some Bhagavatams, let us know. We're happy to assist and making sure you get them. And Bhagavatam is coming up, so sponsor some sets, buy a set, gift a set to a friend on Bhagavatam, the full moon night, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, and there'll be so much benefit for everyone. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.